start by cleaning up your life and your habits.
You do have to start prioritizing and picking the ones that actually matter the most to you.
You end up doing tons of those life-changing, cool things on your list.
You don't have to see the whole path. You just have to take the first step.
But listen to those things because they'll often lead down the road to outcomes way better than you anticipated. Hey there, this is Greg Denning. We want to reach as many people as possible and help as many families as possible with these conversations. And we want to keep this podcast ad-free forever. You can help us do that by subscribing on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, your favorite platform, and on YouTube. And leave a quick review and share your favorite episodes with friends and family. It makes a big difference. Thank you for being a part of this very important movement. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Extraordinary Family Life Podcast. We're your hosts, Greg and Rachel Denning. Super excited to answer an awesome question today about pursuing your dreams and like big, the dumb goals like we talked about, demanding, unrealistic, meaningful, and bold.
And how to do it with children, with a family, and specifically how to decide which one to start with. Because if you have a lot of dreams, like in this question we received, it can be challenging to know, well, wait, where do I start? So, and the question actually came in response to a previous episode we did. It's actually number 244, which was basically titled, "The Size of Your Dreams Must Exceed Your Current Capacity to Achieve Them." So again, the dumb goal, demanding unrealistic, meaningful, and bold, because any meaningful dream is going to require you to grow into the person who can achieve that dream. And so that was the premise of that podcast. And so we received a question. I'll go ahead and read it right now. She says, "I was listening to this podcast for the third time."
Nice. Way to go.
Yeah. "And I have a couple of questions about some ideas you mentioned. You talked about writing down what you really want in life. Then go find someone who has achieved that thing and read about them. Well, I have a crap ton of things, ideas, and relationships that I want." I love that. "Where does one start in the research process? And then what are some good research tactics, things to look for finding the quote, good books on people who have achieved what you want? It sounds easy. Pull up Google and type in blah, blah, blah. But which one do I start with? Relationships with my family? How to make $1 million in 5 years so I can build my dream house with rental properties? Read books on people who didn't sell their house to RV across the country or sell their life savings to travel to Europe? I have so many things that I want. I'm just not sure what order to start." So this is a fantastic question and a totally relevant question because we've been there. We have been in that space of oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to do. Where do I start? And so that's what we're going to go through today. We have 5 different parts or 5 different steps to doing this. And I guess we want to emphasize here at the beginning that yes, it's totally possible. You and I have lived this because we started out as very regular, normal people living a regular, normal life and using the process that we're going to talk about today. I mean, we've been able to accomplish some pretty incredible things. Ultimately, traveling with our 7 children while homeschooling them and building a business to 60 plus countries on 5 continents as a quick summary of everything we've done, because everything we have done will end up filling multiple volumes of a
Books.
memoir
Yeah,
series, which
exactly.
I'm beginning on I've decided I am beginning on that when we get back from our trip to Nepal this September.
Nice. So, and inside this big overarching dream of traveling the world with our family was lots of other dreams,
Yes.
including purchasing properties on
Including
multiple continents,
developing and deepening our own relationships, our relationship with our children.
Yeah, well, their skill level, their
Mhm.
education, the family dynamics, family culture, family legacy, fitness, like being healthy and fit was all built into that. Finances, building
Mhm.
businesses, location independent businesses. So, you say, well, we've taken our 7 kids and we've traveled to all these countries and we're still doing that. And yet inside of that were lots of other dreams. And so they're kind of interwoven. And I think that's an important point we talk about here. It wasn't just working on one, that in order to achieve the big ones, they require kind of prerequisite goals and targets and aims because they all fit together.
Yeah.
You can't You can't achieve some of your biggest ones without achieving some other significant ones as well, because they support and strengthen each other.
Yes. But at the same time, I want to emphasize that we always were trying to take a holistic approach
Yep.
so that some of the bigger dreams weren't accomplished at the sacrifice of some of the more important things in our
Yeah,
life.
the more
For
meaningful
example, we
ones.
didn't sacrifice our parenting relationship with our children. We didn't sacrifice our own marriage. We didn't sacrifice our health and fitness in order to achieve financial goals or travel goals or other things like that.
Yep.
Now, there
That's
were sacrifices.
crazy important.
Very important.
We have to, and so this, she even says this, she says, in the previous podcast, you say, write down what you really want. That's what we're talking about. You have to write down what you really, truly
you're
want.
Jumping to the first one here, which is good. But
and you have to get it in order, prioritized, so that if you're like, yes, we want to travel the world. Do you want that more than you want a great marriage? Well, no. Okay, so then as we're traveling the world, the marriage takes priority. The relationship with kids takes priority. So can I still travel the world and have a phenomenal marriage? Absolutely.
Yes.
But you do it in a prioritized fashion.
Well, and what I was going to say also is that there were things that had to be sacrificed, but we were very careful about paying attention to what we were sacrificing and what we were willing to sacrifice and what we were unwilling to sacrifice. So we didn't sacrifice the relationships. We didn't sacrifice the health and fitness, but we did sacrifice things like, I don't know, hanging out with friends on the weekend or going to all the social functions, or like there's a whole, we sacrificed putting our kids in gymnastics. You know what I mean? Like there were none of our kids played any official team sports.
Well, that's not true.
One daughter played volleyball, right?
And soccer.
But that was small in comparison to the other things. Like we were willing to sacrifice those types of things because to us, deepening the relationships and travel and adventure were higher on the priority list.
Yep.
So as we get into this first one,
there will be some contrarian dreams maybe. And you have to be aware of that. Like it takes really keen awareness to say, because even if she's like, I got a crap ton of dreams, which is awesome. Be ambitious, be driven, like let your mind go crazy. But then you have to realize, well, I want my child to be a world-class, I don't know, team sport, and they've got to be there all the time. And I want to travel as a family.
Yeah, those are incompatible dreams because
they won't work.
I've heard people on Instagram even calling it like belonging to team sports is basically like a religion. It owns your life, it owns your family. And we always told that to our kids. You know, it's not that they never wanted to play team sports, but we explained to them what would be required. And because they were already involved in the other family dream of traveling, they weren't willing, and neither were we, to make that sacrifice of giving up the adventure and travel for that. So it's being aware of, yes, that there are going to be conflicting interests. You can't necessarily do everything. But if you pick, as you hinted at already, number one, write down all of the things, right? Write it all down. If that includes the team sports and everything else, great. Write it all down. But then you do have to start prioritizing and picking the ones that actually matter the most to you. You have to get clarity on those things. Now, you can have relationship goals. And in fact, you should have a goal for every important relationship in your life. You can have financial goals. You can have physical goals. You can have spiritual goals. You can have emotional, mental goals. Like it's good to have goals in each of those areas. So you should and could categorize them. And I say you can achieve goals in each of those areas. But outside of that, that's about probably all you can handle is achieving and doing well in 5 to 6 different areas.
Well, and those should be, I would say, at least for us, this has been our experience. This is how we have achieved what we did. So it's mental, emotional, spiritual, social, physical, and financial.
Yeah.
And those 6. And we're always working on them all the time, no matter what we're doing.
And we're always leveling up on them.
Yeah. So those are never ever. So you have all these big, epic, awesome dreams. I want to own properties. I want to, she wants rental properties. She wants to buy the dream house. She wants to build a business that makes enough money to build a dream house. She wants this and that. Great, all that. But none of those core 6 are ever like dismissed or set aside. so that we can do something else. And that's where people get in trouble. They think, well, I'm going to pursue the most common way we see this is somebody pursuing like a financial goal. And they think, I'm going to make these sacrifices now so it'll pay off later. And so they sacrifice their relationships, their
marriage.
mental health, their
Yeah.
emotional health, their physical health, their spiritual well-being. So
Mhm.
like they sacrifice all these things thinking I'll get this thing. And so that all like crumbles and dies and falls apart. And then they have that target and they look back and like, wow, look at the wreckage.
Yeah.
And so at least for us, and this is the way we see it and this is the way we've done it, you don't sacrifice those core things. You do them in conjunction with the big goals
Right.
and dreams.
So in one answer to her question is, where do you start? Well, in some ways, and I don't want this to come across in a way that seems overwhelming, but in some ways you start with all of them because of the holistic approach that we take. We believe that's a wheel and all of those are spokes. And if you miss some of them, like you're already talking about, you fall flat in those areas and it ends up creating chaos. It ends up creating a mess down the road. Now, do you have to put the same amount of energy and effort and attention into all of them? No. You could pick a few that are the bigger goals that you spend more time and energy on, but you should not neglect the other things. Like you still need to work out, at least five.
So,
And I'm even saying something like 5 minutes, right? You've got to maintain those
but
habits.
5 minutes won't get you in shape. It
Well,
won't get you your targets. But here,
if you're using something like the 2-minute rule from, Atomic Habits or something, that at least maintains a habit that makes it that much easier when you have more time to spend on that to just then add more time rather than re-establish a habit, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And you are right. But
In that framework.
today,
that's a feminine framework right there.
but today I'm
there.
feeling like, especially in the context of this, I want to achieve big dreams. Then baby steps are for babies. And I want to say this with as much love, but as much frankness as possible. If you want to achieve big dreams, you cannot get there with baby steps.
You're right
won't.
as well. But what I want, the context and framework I want to have here is that I think for sure in the things you want to make big steps in, not baby steps, you put that energy into it. But on the other things, again, you're trying to maintain the wheel. You might be taking baby steps because, at least for me as a woman, and maybe it's different for a man, if I try to do giant steps in all 5 or 6 of those things, I will burn out. So that's not realistic. It's not sustainable. I would guess that maybe for a lot of men also, that's also going to be a problem. So yes, do the major steps on the things that matter most. And we'll get into how to identify what that is. But you have to keep up the others.
So
you can't drop them.
So I think I wanted to share my morning, kind of my framework. And I think if you set up a system, a routine or a ritual, then you're actually making significant progress in all of those core areas. And that's literally what keeps you from burning out. Let me share it.
Well,
so every morning, this is what I teach the men in the Formidable Family Man Tribe. The target is to nourish and strengthen mind, body, and spirit every morning. Now, you're not going to be 100%, but you should be 90, 95%. So if every morning I get up and I strengthen and nourish my mind, my body, and my spirit, I've filled myself. I've refilled the well. I've recalibrated. I've reset. I'm ready to go. And so just by getting up and having a routine, a ritual it's filling, it's rejuvenating, it's not exhausting. So doing those 3 things doesn't wear me down. It's like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. You're like, no, I feel fantastic because I'm doing the things I want to do.
But I think what you're doing is actually, what you just explained is illustrating what I'm trying to talk about, because to me, that's maintenance. That's maintaining those things where if I had a major goal, say I wanted to lose 100 pounds, I'm not going to be in maintenance mode for mind, body, and spirit. I'm going to be in go mode. And that's different to me than just maintaining a certain level of wellness, right? Do you see the difference?
Yes, but I'm not sure. I guess I have a different approach.
If I had a major spiritual goal, like this is a goal, I kind of have, that I want to, and this kind of geeks out a lot in the new age stuff, like I want to raise my consciousness level, right? From the David Hawkins' map of consciousness. Well, really what that would take is probably at least an hour of meditating every day. Well, with my lifestyle, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that because I have so many other roles and obligations and goals I'm pursuing. So to me, though,
So
it's
I
not
guess to
one
make
or
it
the other.
100% you could do it, but you're choosing
I'm
to
choosing to
prioritize other
prioritize
things.
other things.
Yep.
Exactly. So instead, what I do is I maintain that with a minimum of 9 minutes of meditation a day.
Great.
Right? So, and I guess that's what I'm talking about. To me, that's the baby step where if I
Well,
have the goal and
and
I
I'm
actually want to achieve it in a major way, I'm going to go in like you're talking about, forget the baby steps. I'm going all in. And that's when I'm like meditating for an hour.
beautiful. Great. Love it.
That's
So
the
you're increasing
difference
the
I'm trying to
intensity.
illustrate here. I'm increasing the intensity.
Yeah. And even in my mind, I was going back to your, well, I meditated for 1 minute or 2 minutes. I'm like,
If that's on
that won't,
some days, that's good for me.
right.
If I'm like,
And
oh,
that's
okay, I at least did a minute today because it was crazy, all kinds of stuff were going on. That minute
right.
counts. Now,
But you
ideally,
can't
it's
do it
better
every
to do
day
more.
because it's too many baby steps. But even 9 minutes is getting you there. And so, and I guess I want to make this distinction because people think, oh, man, you have to work out for like 2 hours every day. And like, no, you don't. It's 30 minutes. 30 minutes of really, truly moving your body. Like you're getting a workout in. 30 minutes is fantastic. So
Yes,
that's not a baby step. That's great. And it's not
but
even maintenance. Like you can get in fantastic shape
yes,
by doing your
but
30 minutes.
you remember because you're married to this person that's like this, 30 minutes of working out, I can do that now. But when we first got married, there was no way I wanted to, nor could I do 30 minutes of working out. So the way
Only because you didn't
I
have the big target to get in shape. Because if you did, you could have done it.
No, I don't think that's entirely true because I feel like I had the desire, but I didn't have the skills, the tools, or the understanding. And for me, I had to baby step myself into that by committing to 2 minute workouts so I could build, because that was one of the key principles that I took away from Atomic Habits by James Clear. That if you develop the identity of I'm the type of person who works out, even if you're working out 2 minutes a day to create that identity, that's what then is able to help launch you into another level. At least for me, and again, we're giving both sides here because there's all kinds of people. At least for me, I have to have that sort of framework available to me so that especially if I'm pursuing with tons of energy one specific goal, say a financial goal, I'm not going to drop the exercise one. I'm going to at least do a 2 minutes or a 10 minutes or a 15 minutes and, and working up to like a 30-minute workout. Great. But I'm maintaining it with a smaller effort so that it doesn't fall into the wayside. And then 30 years later, I'm like, "Huh, I
No.
guess I should start working out now." And
Three,
now it's so much
3
harder.
months, 6 months, 9
Well,
months
right.
later, it can just wreck you.
Right, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. That's what happens to too many people. They go after these big goals to the neglect of all these other things. And then it's that much harder to fix, to recover, to get into doing this thing they should have been doing all along. So that's why I want this framework here as we start out to understand, yeah, ultimately you should be pursuing all of them at the same time, simultaneously. But some of them are going to be smaller efforts and some of them are going to be larger efforts, depending on what's most important to you right now, which we'll get into in the
Right.
next
And
steps.
while you're improving or changing your circumstance to allow it, but I guess, again, this is for me, I'm just going to share my perspective, how it's helpful. 30 minutes spiritual practice, 30 minutes in a great book, and 30 minutes working out intensely, or you can do 20, so 20, 30. So anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, man, you got your mind, body, and spirit dialed in so you can actually show up and get things done. It's so powerful. And it's a formula for growth and for maintenance, so to speak. Like you can make this work. In fact, I would say you have to. If you have really, really big goals, you need the energy and vitality to get it done. And you can't if you're just limping along
Right.
saying, I don't have time, I don't have energy, I can't do that. It's like, well, good
Well,
luck.
and so what you're emphasizing here is something we've used throughout our entire married life practically to achieve our goals is this foundational what we call our morning routine
Yep.
that provides the fuel to be able to do the other things. And you have talked about this before. I know you're using now like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but you've talked about it in our coaching where that morning routine can be an accordion. So if you have more time, great. It's you spend an hour or 90 minutes or 2 hours on your morning routine. Awesome. If you have less time, you don't drop the morning routine.
You collapse it.
You just collapse it, and maybe you're spending 5 or 10 minutes on each thing now
Yep.
instead.
So if it was a crazy, crazy day, 5 minutes in scripture, 5-minute, like turn on 2 workout songs and go crazy intense. And then 5 minutes in a great book while you're driving to where you need to go.
Right.
So I still got in mind, body, and spirit.
So I think in some ways we're actually talking about the same thing, but we just wording it in different ways. It's the most importantly, it's recognizing the critical importance of maintaining those and not dropping them in the pursuit of some other bigger goals, telling yourself, because it's a lie, that you don't have time
Right, exactly.
to maintain those other habits.
Yep.
That's what we want to really heavily emphasize here as we start out, which
Yep.
we have done here now. Okay, so number
Just
1.
In that same vein, though, people are always asking, like, where do I start? Where do I start? I'm like, for me, I'm like, start with your body. Get your body in absolutely fantastic condition.
Because it's the vehicle for pursuing the rest of the goals.
It's everything.
And it increases your energy levels.
Every single thing you do in life is through your body. Everything.
Yeah.
And so get your body in a great condition.
Yeah. Okay. But number 1 is writing it all down. So if you have this crap ton of goals you want to pursue, you have to write them all down. And you and I did this multiple times early on when we were married. We wrote down 100 goals to achieve in a lifetime, 50 goals I want to achieve before I'm 50 or something. Like we did that
or even by years,
times.
like by this year I want to achieve this, or we did bucket lists and life lists, and we
did
done
that
so
over
many
and
times.
over and over again. And part of the value of that is just writing it down. We may not even know where some of those lists are, but the point is we wrote it down because we were trying to concretize what was important to us or what we were thinking about.
And we didn't hit everything that was on the list.
Right.
And I think that's important because some people are like, well, if I write down 100 things and I have to do those 100 things.
Right.
In some ways, you're just practicing.
It's just
creating a vision and a goal and a target, and you start going, and it's amazing what things pop up along your way, how God and the universe conspire in your favor, and you end up doing tons of those seriously life-changing, cool things on your list. It's
and
amazing, even though you don't hit them all.
Some that you realize you actually, this process is about clarity and awareness. And then sometimes you write it down and you realize, actually, that's not that important to me.
Yep.
I really don't care about that much. It's okay to let that go. But the process of writing is what helps to bring the clarity and awareness. So then the second part that we want to address that, at least for me, has always been very important.
Wait, can I, before you finish a second?
Yes.
Because I'm thinking about this part 1, because you write it all out and you practice writing it out, but then really start, like, I don't know, put stars by it, number it, like categorize it.
Well, I think that leads into the second part
Okay,
here.
but let me finish this thought here for a second. Because what I started realizing is, like, I want to get my pilot's license. I still do. And I want to get, certified skydiver. And I still do. So then you start doing it, and it's like, okay, that is so cool. And I love it. I really do love it. But then I start measuring, and it's like, okay, it's this many thousands of dollars and this many hours away from my family. And when I have that in front of me, because the
part
goal
of the
is
clarity
cool.
and awareness.
Yeah,
process.
You're getting more clear. You're like, oh, okay, it's this many thousands of dollars and this many hours away. That's cool, and I really could pursue that. I could, but actually,
I'd rather take my family to Nepal.
Yeah, I'd rather take that money and go to Nepal, and I'd rather take that time and do some woodworking with the kids, or some trail running, or some project they want to do. And it might end up being this project. It never showed up on my life list, but having this connection, this bond with one of my children, or with each of them, and you're like, this is cool, this is special. So playing volleyball with my daughter, right? Like that, that never made it on my life list. Play beach volleyball with Aaliyah, right? Because I didn't even know. I didn't know what my kids would like. Well, she loves it, and so me spending hours playing with her is priceless to me.
Taking away from your skydiving goals, but
Right.
it's more valuable.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Right. So that's part of the.
There's iterations, and it evolves as you come
Yes.
along. And then am I going to look back and be like, oh man, I never got my pilot's license because I spent so much time with my kids? Am I going to, and maybe this is part of your exercise, am I going to regret that? No way. But that's not saying I can go get my pilot's license. I could do it anytime I wanted. I could go get certified skydiving right now too. But I'm weighing out all the other cool things I'm
Right.
doing. writing a book.
Which is part of this entire writing process, and
Yeah.
that's the value of writing it down. Okay, so but then it also does lead into number 2 here, which has always been important for me. I'm interested to hear, I think it's been important to you as well, but it's the role of paying attention to your intuition and certain, I'm going to call them signs that show up in your life. And for me, this has always played out in very fascinating ways because as I've written down the list of all the things I want to do, which is a lot, I'm trying to think about what do I start with? Where do I begin pursuing this? And it's amazing how things will start to show up in my life. Maybe someone gives me a book. Maybe someone starts talking about it. Maybe it shows up on my Instagram feed. Maybe like there's all these different ways that these things come up in my life where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I was just thinking about that. And now here's this book on this topic, or here's this article, or somebody brought it up or mentioned it to me. I actually pay big attention to those things because I think that they're very guiding, like they're guides into where to begin pursuing this path, right?
For some of you skeptics right now, you're just like, oh, that's just your reticular activating system. Bring it to your
Of
awareness.
course it is.
And of course it is. And some of that's absolutely true. But I also believe that God and his universe are conspiring in your favor. I really do.
Yeah.
And I believe you send out an energy and you get it back. And as we're pursuing things, yeah, there'll be divine coincidences.
Serendipity.
Yeah, serendipity for sure. Like the
Yeah.
favorite definition
Synchronicities.
of serendipity is like when you're chasing something good and out of nowhere something even better pops up. And
Yeah.
that has happened so many times to us as we've been out living and pursuing great things. Even better things, usually things we were not aware of, come into our reality. And we're like,
Yeah.
whoa, we didn't know this was even possible. We didn't know it existed. And because we were out pursuing one thing, this came into our path. Now we're taking that
Yeah.
opportunity.
And it's part of this process is not like leading you to the next destination per se, but it's giving you these little mile markers or milestones or like here breadcrumbs on the path, right? And so I pay attention to those and I pursue them like, oh, and sometimes it's as simple as like I'm on Amazon looking up something else and this book just somehow jumps out at me like, oh, that's interesting. And so I get it and I order it and I read it, right? It's just little things like that that I pay attention to because when I do, I find that it takes me down the paths I want to go that lead me to even better places than I had originally managed.
Often offering
Imagine.
you knowledge and skills
Yes,
that you realize you
exactly.
didn't know you need, but then you realize, oh, I
Right,
needed this. I needed this in my journey.
exactly.
It's beautiful.
Well, when you're talking about this, it just reminds me of when we lived in Guatemala years ago. And I like to tell this story because at the time, it was something that bothered me. We were living in Guatemala. We were actually broke. We had 5 kids. No, yes, 5 kids. And Greg was just so fascinated and interested in homesteading. Like we'd been traveling.
Permaculture.
Yeah.
Like I could not learn enough. It was
We had been
geeking out.
traveling. We had been driving in our truck from Alaska. We had driven all the way to Guatemala. We rented a house for a while, and he just was like geeking out about permaculture and homesteading. And we got rabbits and we were like doing all this stuff. And I was just like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? Why are you obsessed with this? Why don't you do something else? Right. And
Wow, yeah, it was. And legit, like you had reason to be just, I was spending hours and hours and
yes,
hours,
so
just
much time.
so much time on this.
Yeah.
And part of it was a humanitarian effort we were doing. And part of it was like, I just want to and kind of go off grid. And like, I just want this. And
Yeah.
it called to me, it spoke to my soul and made my soul sing. I
Exactly.
loved it.
Yeah. So at the time, I was a little bit annoyed with it, even though I found that it was interesting and all that, but I just thought there was better ways to spend our time. Well, fast forward actually more than 10 years, right? And we had bought a property in Guatemala. We had set it up as a little homestead. We had some animals and some berry bushes and all these things. And we had returned to remodel it and make it into like an Airbnb. And I remember standing there looking at it now that it was all beautiful and like this great property. And I thought, this came about because Greg was obsessed with homesteading and permaculture back in those days, right? And so, it seems like maybe weird little story to tell, but I think it illustrates beautifully how, because ultimately I had this dream that one day we would own multiple properties around the world and we'd have like these places we could gather with friends and family. And now we have, like, that was the first one we bought in Guatemala, but now we have one in Georgia. We have one here in Portugal. Like, this is coming true. But it started with that first property that came about because you were interested in homesteading
Hmm.
and permaculture. So I've learned to pay attention and to respect and
Tolerate.
allow when you're interested in something
Yeah.
and trust that as some sort of breadcrumb on a path that's going to lead us to a place that we want to go,
Yeah.
right? Because I really think that that's what it's about.
And it was so fascinating because we needed to work on our financial goals, and doing this did not seem like a financial
Right.
investment. But ironically, it's turned
Now it's an
into
asset
a
worth,
massive financial investment.
yeah.
It's worth quite a bit of money, and it ended up fulfilling one of my desires, was to have properties that are free and clear and producing food, and where you could just go and just get away from everything.
Exactly.
And there it is.
Right.
And it's just awesome.
Yeah. Totally. Okay.
So listen to those things, because they'll often lead down the road to outcomes way better than you anticipated.
Yes.
Because right now, as it is, way better than I dreamed or I
Mhm.
thought it would be. Like I
Yeah.
I couldn't envision.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And in some ways, so the third part here or step is very much connected to the previous one, but I think there is some differentiation here, and it's following your interests. So it's following your intuition and paying attention to signs, but then also following your interests, which is definitely what played in with that story I just told. Like, you somehow were interested in permaculture. And so following that interest led to that outcome. But Jordan Peterson likes to talk about how, we all act as and believe and behave as if our future potential is a thing that exists. Like, we discuss it that way. We talk about it like you have potential. We all know that. We all know that we have potential, even though it's not a tangible thing per se. But he believes, and I believe as well, that our interests, like, the interest you had in permaculture, is a guidepost or, again, I guess another breadcrumb to fulfilling our potential.
Or maybe some kind of beacon.
Yeah, a beacon. Exactly. No,
And
I
I
like
like
that
that.
word.
And I like, for me, I feel like many of them are divinely implanted. I feel like
Yes.
God gives us desires to lead us to our mission, our purpose, our
Yeah.
passion, some kind of contribution or fulfillment. That they're not. And again, we have to pay attention. We have to go back to the
Hmm.
intuition. You have to be clear, because you're like, my desires are to sit around watching sports on TV and eating Oreos and playing video games. That's my desires. Does that mean
That's what
God?
I'm
That's what God
interested
wants
in.
me to do? Like, no, you're being a lazy sack, and you're like wasting your life. So it's got to be, it has to be a noble aim. It has to be something that leads you to better. It makes a contribute. It makes the world a better place, and it's drawing you upward. That's why we always talk about the upward reach. It's like, is this making me better? Is it adding value to my life, to my family, to the people around me, to the world? And that's an important measurement.
Although I do find that it's very interesting. This has happened in my life, and I think it probably happens in other people's lives as well. That sometimes we are interested in things like a show or a series on Netflix or something that does teach us very important lessons that we can use in our journey, right? Like, there's it's almost like experiential learning via a series or whatnot that can teach you something that's important. So that can play a
Yes, it
role.
can. Yeah, but it's also so hard, because the other times you're just going off soap opera sequences, and they're playing psychology, and you're going for dopamine hits, and you're
Yeah,
like, I feel so drawn to the series. It's like, yeah, you're just addicted
right.
to the dopamine hits you're getting
Yes.
from what's going to happen next. Oh my goodness. And she did this and he said that. And it's like, no, that's not. So it's hard to distinguish that,
Right. To
because
a
some
genuine interest
movies will change your
versus,
life, and some of them will waste your life. And
Right.
some books will change your life and some books will waste your life.
Mm-hmm.
And some experiences will change your life and some will just are a waste of time.
And I think that's where the intuition comes in and the awareness, because as you evaluate, like, okay, having watched that show or done this thing that I felt like I was interested in, what value did I get from it?
Mhm.
What did it teach me? What lesson did I learn? Because ultimately, I think that's part of the journey that's required. Because again, achieving a goal that's beyond your current capacity requires you to become more capable. And so, if you're not actually growing and improving, it's not stretching you. That to me is the clue. Like, okay, is this stretching me? Is it expanding me? Or is it just maintaining my current levels? And if it's just maintaining my current levels, then that to me is not true interest as aligned with future potential
Mhm.
and growth.
Good. Here's maybe a helpful thought for people. So I love Rachel. I love like personal development books and business books. We also love the great classics because expanding your education and those really challenge ideas. But I love fiction books as well.
Mhm.
And you might think, well, what can you get from fiction? There's so much fluff, and there's a lot of empty fluff. And you read a fiction book, and there's literally no substance. There's no life lessons. It's like that was empty. So I love fiction, but for me, my personal standard is it has to give me something. Like you were just explaining, like, am I better? Am I expanded? Do I have a bigger knowledge base, even a skill set? Do I understand a demographic, a process, a threat? Do I
Mhm.
understand something better? And so, I love going through with my teens, especially. We go through these long series of fiction books, but man, they are absolutely packed with knowledge, wisdom, skills,
Mhm.
understanding, comprehension, expansion. And so, yes, it's entertaining, but at the end of being entertained, I'm actually better. And
And
that's powerful for
and
me.
that also ties in directly with your interest, because with this series I think you're talking about, you and our son are drawn to that. You're very interested in it, but it also is directly connected with other things you want to
Yep.
pursue on your life path.
Absolutely. So it's fueling the fire too.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're warriors. Um, and our teen daughter's going through them too, and she's a fighter. And so it's part of this being a protector and being an operator, and it's powerful and beautiful.
Well, because one of the things Peterson talks about, that as I've thought about it more, I see that it's true that you can't fake interest. Like, you can't make yourself be interested in something you're not, right? Like, if you're really not interested in it, there's yeah, you can ask some questions and you can learn more about it, and that can, increase your interest a little bit. But if it's really something you're just not interested in, you're just not going to be interested in it. And that's why to me it's so fascinating, and
To
I feel
clarify, you could pretend it, you
oh,
could
absolutely
act
you
like
could.
it, fake it, like, oh yes, I
Right.
love this, but like
The
the
true
true,
driving
right?
interest, you can't fake that. That's why I also feel that it is so powerful and so important to pay attention to authentically, because it does become, like you were saying, this beacon to, this is a life path I can pursue, or this is something I can learn that can help me on my life path, or, whatever. Like, it's a very important mile marker or guide on this path. And so I think as we're figuring out, okay, how do we actually do this? How do we actually decide what to pursue? Like, you take that list you've written down and you can even just circle two or three of them that are most interesting to you. That right there is a way to help you decide what to begin pursuing in a big way, by paying attention simply to what you're interested in.
And that what you'll find, at least has been our experience, is there'll be time periods. There's
Yeah.
time periods where, man, I just cannot get enough of this.
Permaculture.
And it lasts for a couple of years in that case, and then it goes away. And
Yeah.
I'm super interested in something else for a few years.
Yes.
And so it moves along, and there's phases of life and phases of interest. So it's really fascinating and enjoyable as long as we respond to them.
Great. Okay, so now the fourth step is the researching process and the finding the right sources that help you. And again, this isn't something you have to overthink. It can be very simple, and it can start with something as simple as a Google search or a Chat GPT search, right? You're just
So AI is going to be extremely helpful.
absolutely
Just in the
right.
last, really last year for me. AI has become so powerful and such a great resource for research. Where
Yeah.
before it was very, even Google was not near what AI is.
Absolutely. So if you have something that you're interested in, you're drawn to, it keeps popping up with your reticular activating system, whatever. I'm like, okay, pay attention to that. And then I'm going to ask chat or I'm going to Google it and find like, what's a great book on this or what's a podcast I could listen to? Like, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It's just like you want these little crumbs, these little tidbits that are going to move you forward to the next step. Like you're just taking small steps on this journey. And I feel like for a lot of us, we think, well, I have to have a whole business plan mapped out. I have to have everything planned perfectly before I can move forward. And for us, we've never taken that approach. In fact, I'm laughing now because just this morning, we have these German friends that come over in the morning to work out with us. And you were still in the gym, but I was inside with them talking. And they were telling me about her parents' farm in Germany. And I was telling them about all the animals we lost when we first started out because we didn't know anything about farming. And he was like, well, didn't you like do a bunch of research or figure things out? I'm like, no, we never do things that way. I'm like, basically, Greg came home with animals. I'm like, we bought sheep. We didn't even have a fence. And he was like, what? I'm like, yeah, we had no fence for sheep when we first got them. And as I was thinking about it later, in some ways, especially to a German, it just sounds crazy. Like, how could you just do that?
Right.
But I realized that and let's use this as like a parable, when you live that way, which I will accredit to you mostly, it forces you to learn things and figure out things that otherwise it would be so easy to put on the back burner.
Yep. And you collapse time with intensity.
Right. There's intensity there because you're like, the sheep are running all over. We have to contain them. Let's learn how to build a fence.
And so obviously there's mistakes that could have been prevented.
Right.
At least for us, the ready, fire, aim approach has enabled us to do
way more than we otherwise would have.
And then most people will ever experience. I mean, we feel like we lived multiple lifetimes.
Right.
Because we're willing to do that. So yeah, is there a cost to the speed and intensity?
In animal life?
100%.
Yes.
Well, and mistakes. We make mistakes and we lose money and yeah, but the learning process is crazy fast.
It's true. Right. Because it's necessary, because it's required. It's like you can't ignore it. You have to learn about it. You have to do something about it. And otherwise, because if we waited to do things the way I think they should be done all the time, like, well, let's wait until we have everything in place, we'd probably still be learning about it and talking about it and planning
and
for it.
We wouldn't get to it and you're like, oh, well, we're busy. And so not going to get that fence put up. And so we'd wait like many people do for years.
Yeah.
They're waiting and waiting and waiting, always waiting to live. And I'm like, no, I'm going to live now.
Right.
And is it going to cost me some extra money and some mistakes? And but
and
we're
sometimes
be
live. Annoying because
you're
trying to do something
annoying.
and now the sheep are out again.
I'm trying to figure it out. And but
it definitely collapses time.
It's been awesome.
Yeah. So that is one approach, is that you literally just start moving forward. You don't have to wait till you have all the answers. You just start taking the next step. Like, okay, if I was going to do this, what would I do? And what would I do next? And what would I do next? And you start taking those steps. But of course, you can also do lots of learning about it, because sometimes you don't even have the option of taking a step. All you can do is learn about what the steps would be, right? And so that you watch documentaries, you read books, you listen to podcasts, you ask people.
This is
it's
where
just getting as much information as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Biographies, autobiographies, even fictional books. I can think of great fictional books right now. I'm like, yeah, that character is just the epitome of who I want to be and how I want to live life and do life. And then and this one's so important. So if you have just kind of been idly listening, like listen up right now. Pay attention to the big mistakes, the irreparable mistakes that people make, and what I call the poor exchange rate, what they end up sacrificing to get what they want. Because you'll often hear somebody pursuing greatness in one area and behind the scenes, and they may not even talk about it, but it leaves this just trail of tears and sorrow and misery and it's just their life is wrecking lives and relationships. And so you might look at them and think, wow, look, they're so rich and so famous. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hold up. They're full on drug addicts, but they're hiding that
Mm-hmm.
just to sustain their horrible habits. They destroyed all their relationships. Their family members, their spouse and kids hate them, detest them, despise them. And their health is just sustained by medication or substances, right? And you start putting that all together and you're like, whoa, okay, now when I look at the whole picture, and I'm asking you, listener, when you see the whole picture, is that what you want? And no, you're like, no, I don't want that at all. I
Yeah.
just want this
So
one element. So like, okay, then do you want to follow that guy's example?
right. So that's the, I guess, warning we give of like, yeah, go out looking for resources, look for people who've done what you want, but pay attention to those details because they matter. Because if you follow them exactly, you're going to end up with the same results.
Yep.
And so it's great to learn from people like that, but you have to make, and this is something we've always done, we make the adjustments that makes it sustainable holistically so that we're not
Well,
sacrificing our marriage, we're not sacrificing our kids, we're not sacrificing our health in order to achieve this one outcome.
and it's aligned. It has to be aligned with what's most important to us,
Yeah.
which takes us back to step one: is write down what's most important for us. It's marriage and our children and our family lifestyle and
Mm-hmm.
culture. That's most important. So that
Yeah.
stays intact. So there's a lot of business influencers, business coaches out there right now. It's a growing number of them do not have children.
Yeah.
And so they're out there like, you want to succeed in business,
Work
you
16 hours
and your
a day.
spouse 15 hours a day for the next 10 years and you'll get it. And so people are like, yeah, woo, I'm doing it. So I hear that. I'm like, nope, I'm out. And
Well,
I'm out, right?
and
I'm not going to do that because my marriage and my children matter more to me than maybe this gigantic business empire.
yes. And for us, it's always been recognizing that we're not willing to sacrifice those things. And so as a result, in fact, this was a conscious choice Greg and I made a couple times during our early years of parenting. We said our business will grow slower because we're going to be focusing on our family. So yeah, maybe you take this guy's stuff, Alex Ramosi, and you apply it.
Well,
But
it's Tom Billahue
yeah,
and it's
right,
Brendan
all those guys.
Burchard.
But you apply it, but realize, okay, it's going to take me 30 years instead of 15 or 35 or 40. Like it's going to take me longer. But you know what? That's okay because I'm also going to have great relationships at the end of it. And maybe I'll never get to the same level of earning that he has. All right. But I'll be there with a great marriage and I'll be there with great relationships with my kids and my health intact. And you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's recognizing that in order to have that holistic well-being, you're going to have to be slower in some areas
And
of
it's
achievement.
important for you to define success. So for
Yeah.
me, true wealth is to be really, truly healthy, like
Mhm.
super healthy. And we are. To have my mind at peace
Mhm.
and strong and getting a world-class education, just never a graduation from education. I was always learning. To have my spirit like grounded and centered and peaceful. No, I don't have any dark corners. I don't have any cobwebs. I've got no
Skeletons.
skeletons in there. I'm nothing in there that I'm like hiding or tormented by at night. Like I'm great. And then this phenomenal marriage with you and this relationship, and the two of us together, amazing relationship with each of our 7 children.
Mhm. And their spouses.
And living a life that we love.
Yeah.
Like we genuinely wake up like, we get to live this life. This is amazing. That right there, that's
Right.
wealth. That is success. Would I trade that for $10 million? Not a chance.
Or $100 million.
Not a chance. I wouldn't trade it because like this is what I want. And even when I think about becoming wealthy, it's like, what for? So we
I
can live,
all
do all the things we're already doing.
Right.
Become wealthy. That's great. And we're growing our businesses. That's great.
Yeah, but we're emphasizing perhaps the wealth achievement will be lessened so that we have the overall.
So the riches specifically, the
Yes.
money success will be lessened deliberately less so that we can have the kind of success and wealth that we have right now
That
and
really
want.
matters,
Yeah.
right? Perfect. Okay, the last one, 5, on actually deciding which dream to start with. I think there's 3 main filters: urgency, energy, and then alignment. So urgency means like, oh, well, if you have a dream of traveling with your children, well, you have a limited
You
time period
better
there
go
because
before they
your
move out.
kids will be moving out. Like
Yeah.
they'll be growing up. So you have
I
to,
can't tell you how many times people talk to us and they let that pass.
yeah.
They're like, "Oh, we wanted to do that. We were busy and we work and they were in school and da da da." And it's like now he's 17 and graduating and we missed it. And
Hmm.
they have so much remorse. They missed the chance to get out and have those global experiences with their kids.
But this could also be something like if you have a bill that's coming due, or you have to pay something or do something, like that's an urgency. So pay attention and work on that thing and get that taken care of, because that's something that then can carry over and help out. Like, get out of debt, do
Yeah.
whatever that thing is. Like,
Or
put that
you're
energy in.
overweight and out of shape and unhealthy. That's urgent.
Right.
Get your butt in shape.
Yeah.
Get healthy. That's urgent.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can do that 30 minutes a day. And actually, I know this is shocking to a lot of people. It actually takes less time to eat less. It's amazing. So weight loss programs save you time.
Right.
People say, I don't have time to lose weight. You're like, no, just eat less. You'll have more time. It's amazing.
And then the energy piece ties into interest, like what excites you, because anything that excites you is going to obviously be easier to pursue because you're more excited about it. So that's a key piece to that. But also the energy piece comes from like energy levels, which is connected to health and well-being. If you're finding like you're chronically undermotivated or lacking energy, a lot of times that's really connected to food, sleep, and exercise. And people don't realize that. But if you get those things right, then you just have more energy and it's easier to do more and to accomplish more because you're more energized and motivated.
There's another aspect of energy of like what kind of energy something gives off, what kind of
Yeah.
energy something radiates. And certain industries radiate certain energies and certain lifestyles and certain
Mhm.
people and places. So that's another aspect of this energy piece of
Yeah.
like pay attention to that. What spirit does it have? What energy does it uh, generate or radiate? And sometimes you get into an interest or a path, and you're like, "What's the energy here?" It's like it's pretty toxic. It's or it's blah. Or you get in, you're like, "Oh, I love doing this thing," and you get in, you're like, "Man, everybody in here is like
Miserable.
we're going nowhere in
Or doing
life."
drugs.
Yeah, and they're like this is
Well,
really off.
it's very interesting too. I want to mention this because at least in my life this has played a role, is that sometimes, cuz we could follow an interest into a path like that and then be like, "Man, that was wrong. I guess my interest was wrong." At least for me, sometimes that happens intentionally. So I know I don't want to follow that path,
Mhm.
or that's what I don't want. Like it still brings more clarity to my life because I'm like, I went down that and realized I do not want it. So now I have more clarity to pursue what I do want. So
Beautiful.
it doesn't mean that your interest was wrong or your intuition was wrong. It just means it was teaching you a very important lesson. Okay. So finally, the alignment. And that just means like which dream, if you achieved it, would make the other dreams easier. Now, obviously, for a lot of people, that's often finances sometimes. Like if I increased my finances, that would make it easier for me to achieve other dreams, a
It
dream
seems
house or this or that or travel.
which is true, but then you step back and you're like, wait a minute, to get the finances, I have to
Yes.
do this much, say, work. Does that align with my family goals?
Well,
Actually, no, it doesn't.
okay.
So there's that aspect of it to measure.
I was thinking you were going to say, which is also true, that sometimes we're like, okay, if I work on this goal, say it's finances, you begin to realize that, well, I can't do that until I learn this skill,
Mm.
or until I get in better health, or until I deal with this issue with my wife. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It also helps to clear or bring awareness to some of those other issues too. And then you realize, well, yeah, first, you had a client once and she hired you to help grow her business. And as soon as you began coaching her, you realized she couldn't take off with her business because her runway was literally cluttered and covered with 10,000 things that were standing in the way. And so, but that's also a very valuable part of this journey. Like, I want you to know that that's a part of it. That is what it is. The obstacle is the way. And so when you think, I want to pursue this thing, and then you're like, oh, I can't move forward because
I have this problem, then that's your
I
first
have this
step.
mess.
So that's
That's
part of
the first step.
that's part of the answer
Yeah,
to the question. It's like,
exactly.
where do I start? Well, start pursuing your dreams. And what's the first obstacle you run
Exactly.
into? That's where you start.
That's where you
You
start
get
working.
rid of that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have to clear the runway if you want to be able to take off. And the only way to do that is to begin moving forward and seeing what's on the runway and then clearing it step by step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so many good people are just so disorganized and cluttered and chaotic,
Mhm.
and they've nasty tempers and emotional flatulence and horrible stinking habits, staying up late and sleeping in and spending all this time scrolling mindlessly or whatever, entertaining themselves to death. And they're sitting there saying, where should I start? Well, start by cleaning up your life and your habits. Get rid of all the garbage,
Mhm.
like in media and food. And I mean, clear out your life until it's just
Yeah.
good and clean and organized. Man, watch how capable you become, how much bandwidth that clears up, how much clarity and insight and inspiration and motivation. It's amazing. So
Yeah.
that's where you start.
Right.
Get your life in order.
And just as we wrap up here, kind of the takeaway, one quote that really spoke to me early on in our pursuit of dreams was from, I think it was from Martin Luther King. You can remind me. It's like, you don't have to, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly, but you don't have to see the whole path. You just have to take the first step. And that step is often into the darkness.
Mhm.
I'm totally butchering this quote, but that was the gist of it. Like, you're not going to see everything. You're not going to see every step. You're not going to have everything perfectly lined out for you. And in fact, very often you're going to be taking that first step forward into darkness.
Yeah.
But as you take those steps, it's amazing how the light begins to come and shine away, and doors begin to open, pathways that you never even imagined. You could never see them because you're way back here and you can't see what's up ahead. But as you move forward, you're like, oh my gosh, there's this whole other path over here that I didn't even know existed. That's exactly what I want. But you only found it because you began moving forward. And so you don't have to have everything figured out. You just start taking those steps, and it's going to reveal to you what's standing in the way, what's blocking your runway, what's, what other opportunities are available to you, but that only happens with forward motion.
That was hard for us in the
Mhm.
beginning, and I know it's hard for a lot of people. And we wanted to know all the answers.
Yeah,
We wanted to know the how.
right.
And because we're like, why would I step forward? I don't know how this is going to
Exactly.
work out.
Yeah.
That's the point we're trying to
Mhm.
make. You often don't know how until you take
In
a few
fact,
steps forward and you can finally see around the corner.
right.
But those steps forward are terrifying. I don't even know what I'm doing. And you just start moving towards it. And it's not until you get up there, you're like, oh, there's a path right
Oh,
here.
that's easy.
Somebody else made a path. I got this. But you can't see the path. You're just
Right.
looking like, I'm lost. Help. Somebody show me the way. And I don't know. I'm just in life. There's not that many very clear, easy paths. You just have to start stepping into it, and then you find the paths.
Yeah.
You find the formula. You find the common denominators. You find the stepping stones. You're like, oh, I can do this.
I think that was one of the hardest things for me. I remember is that I wanted to know how. Like, I needed to know exactly how it was going to work. And it took a lot of faith for me. I feel like I still struggle with it too, actually, in some ways. I'm way so much better than I used to be, but I began to realize that you can't. In fact, if you wait for the how, you will never achieve it. You have to move forward first, and then the how is revealed along the way. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's even part of the how. Like, oh, okay, yeah, here's this little piece that's going to make that happen. Great. Okay, keep going. Oh, here's the next piece, right? And so it's this revelatory process as you're moving forward that will never come if you just sit still waiting, like, I need to know how before I can move forward. It
Mhm.
doesn't work like that.
So get excited. Write down your
Write
dreams.
down your crap ton of dreams.
Fuel those dreams. Think about them. Put up vision boards.
Circle 1 to 3 of them that spark the most interest to
Yep.
you.
And work on the like the first step, if you had to say, well, which one first? Like, which one will allow the others? Which one will inspire the others? Which one is the most important? It can never be neglected. Just start on those.
And then if you start on that and you realize there's a bunch of stuff in your way, okay, now put your attention on getting that stuff out of the way.
Now you got your work cut out for you. And always, 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 this has been one of our secret weapons. We are always learning. Every day we are learning. We are reading, listening to podcasts. Like, we are just constantly learning, and it's expanding our minds every day. And so it feels like we have this unfair advantage. And it's not unfair because anybody can read, but they don't. And so learning gives you that advantage.
And especially as we close by emphasizing where we started, that in order to achieve those dreams that are beyond your reach, you literally have to become a new person. You have to become the person who's capable of achieving that dream. And that's where the real value lies, is who you become.
Exactly. Love you guys. Chase your dreams and share them with us. Reach upward.